All right, are you ready for some trivia? I bet you're going to get this one wrong. So, here's a question. If you get absolutely no sleep, how much do you think that'll affect your physical coordination on the afternoon of the following day? So, if you get no sleep tonight, tomorrow afternoon, how much is that going to affect your physical coordination? Is it going to be A, 20%, B, 30%, C, 40%, or D, 50% or greater?
James Cahoon is a former insomniac who has cured his own insomnia. He is not a doctor, nor is he a licensed practitioner of medicine. The material in this video is meant for informational purposes only. Consult your physician before making any decisions based upon this material.
All right, so first things first, the 70s haircut. This is what I call quarantine hair, and this is going to be going on for a few videos, so I just wanted to apologize for that right now. So as far as the trivia goes, one such test that's been done like this in sleep centers around the world is called the ruler drop test. And so that is where you take a ruler, and I'm not prepared, but we'll just show you kind of how this works with this pen here. So you would basically take a ruler and then you drop it and catch it as fast as you can, right? Like that, right? So that's going to show you if we're holding it here and then I release and drop. That was not my best, but you can see I went from being about here to being somewhere around there on the pen. So that would just give you a sense, with a ruler, obviously it's a little bit finer measurements, and that's going to tell you what your coordination is like. And so they've done that test with people that had perfect sleep, and then they've done it with people that had obviously some insomnia problems, and then actually had people sleep in the sleep center, see exactly how much sleep they get, and then do this test. In some cases with people not getting any sleep at all and then doing this test. And when they've done this, and they've done it many times across the country, they've found that with good sleep, patients caught the ruler on average 20% faster than when they were severely sleep deprived. So even in cases where patients had gotten almost no sleep for several days, reaction time never dropped below 20% in the majority of patients. In fact, in cases with 2 to 3 hours of sleep, reaction time was only 10% worse than normal. So, obviously there's been a lot of studies done like this, and it's everything from physical effects to ways of testing the mental capabilities of people and even emotional impacts. And the science basically proves that the physical effects in this case, and in other areas, mental and emotional effects, are just not as bad as most insomniacs believe them to be. So what's going on there? Well, first things first, let's get this out of the way. 20% isn't a small number. If you have a 20% impact on your physiological well-being, that's going to be something you notice. It's going to be a pretty heavy impact. So you're going to feel it very dramatically, and what's obviously going to impact you more might just be at how disabled you feel based on that 20%. So that's where it gets interesting, is what happens after you notice your own tiredness. So once you notice physical or even mental or emotional or any side effect of sleep, the lack of sleep starts becoming a bigger emphasis of your focus. So the saying goes, what you focus on expands. And this is an interesting example of that. When you start to notice the effects of sleep deprivation, the common instinct is to further explore how tired you feel. So you start noticing how hard your day is. You focus on kind of like the pain that you feel and the fatigue in your body. You notice mental fuzziness that might be going on, snappy emotional reactions. Basically everything you're experiencing, you start paying attention to that to notice this the moment you notice that you're tired. So the effects may only be 20%, but that 20% can easily consume over 50% of your focus. So there's obviously some powerful placebo effects surrounding tiredness itself here. And when insomniacs focus the majority of their attention on the problem, they can become almost disabled. So it's hard to focus on your work, your relationships, interests, or really anything when you're consumed by your own emphasis on tiredness. And after all, if you only have 80% of your focus, if you're down 20%, then obviously you can only focus on so much at a time as it is. And if you're mostly focused on your own tiredness, then you're going to have very little focus left for everything else. And so in many cases, it's these placebo effects that are actually the majority of the problem. So now this video is called Mental Ways to Help with Sleep. And the reason I bring all this up is this is going to actually start reframing something for you that's going to have a deep impact on your ability to sleep. And what we're actually doing here is we're taking a very common belief or kind of system that operates behind a lot of beliefs with insomnia, which is, around the area of just feeling disabled because of how tired you are and feeling like it's, essentially the worst problem ever. That's at least where I was. And so we're taking that kind of core and we're challenging it. We're starting to have a look at it, look at the actual science and go, is it that you're actually that disabled? Or is it actually that you're taking your whole focus and attention span and just constantly focusing all of that on the problem and putting a lot more of your energy there than you actually need to? And by doing that, you're actually not able to have that energy for other things. And that's something you might never even have noticed before. So when you notice something new like this, that's what brings up an opening for belief change that is going to change the way that you view tiredness and sleep. And when sleep is crazy important, it becomes very difficult to get. So this is part of the reason that it's so important to do this kind of work. And, if you found yourself kind of thinking like, I know it's not just 20%. There's no way it can be right. You want to kind of check yourself on that because belief change and starting to really unwind some things that are keeping your insomnia going and getting you into this downward spiral are going to be deeply rooted ideas. And we have to, just be open to new ideas and sort of try them on like a pair of clothes. You can take them off if you don't like them, if they don't fit, but you got to be open to trying on new ideas here. And this one's actually kind of an objective truth claim. So what that means is you can actually test this idea out for yourself. And the way you would go about doing that is you'd simply just notice how much of your focus on your own tiredness comes up after you first become aware of the fact that you're tired. So when you're going about your day, you might be working on something and you're focused on the work and not really, if you're paying really close attention, you'll notice that there's times of the day where you're actually forgot that you were tired. Like that actually does happen if you're really into something. And then all of a sudden you'll remember that you're tired. And so it's that moment, that little spark that happens, that's where you want to jump in. So you want to catch that moment when it happens, first of all, and then just witness what you do immediately after. So as soon as you notice you're tired, where does your attention go? Where does your focus go? Just pay attention to that. And you might be surprised at how much focus, time, and energy you're putting into just paying attention to how tired you are instead of, just snapping back to whatever you were doing. So that's something you can test out yourself, and I recommend you do so. It can be a huge eye opener. And as far as that 20% rule goes, I've read a lot of books on insomnia. I've been to multiple sleep centers. I've actually talked to multiple insomnia professionals, doctors that actually specialize in insomnia. And this 20% rule is kind of more or less something I see all over the place across the board. It's going to be kind of a good rule of thumb to follow. And, I've asked a lot of chronic insomniacs this question, and most of them actually pick option D every time, especially people that have real problems with sleep, the kind of people that, I've mostly shared these ideas with back in the day. And so, even showing those kind of people the evidence, it can be hard to accept this fact, but the more you look at it, the more you'll start to see it. So the implications here basically are that the downward spiral is kept in place by sort of this catch-22 that's happening, where by having tiredness be such a big deal in your life and believing it's controlling so much, that actually makes sleep really important. So on an unconscious level at night, your brain sort of fires up to prepare to get sleep. Because anything that you deal with during the day, anything in your life that's really important, that's something where you're going to go in kind of a fight or flight mode, and your brain's going to speed up to help you out with that. But sleep only happens when your brain slows down. And so this is the thing that fragments your sleep cycle all night, which is going to obviously lead to you feeling even more tired, having more problems, and then fragmenting your sleep even more the next night. That's where it becomes a downward spiral. So here's the question you really want to ask with that. If in the worst case scenario, sleep actually only has a 20% impact on your next day, but you act like it has a 50% plus impact, how much more important are you making sleep on a subconscious level? Like how much? Is it 2 times, 3 times? Well, we've looked at this a lot, and it's actually more like 5 to 10 times. It's really like, what are you having to give up in your life when you're approaching life as in you're 50% disabled? If you think about, how much crappier your days are, what medical issues you're concerned about, and, the impact it might be having on your family or social life, if you just stop and think about that for a second, you'll see it's just a drastic impact. So making sleep more important than it actually is not only limits what you're free to do in life, it has a drastic effect on your sleep quality itself. And, obviously we've looked at how easy deep sleep is a result of slow brainwave speed. So, this is a belief system that there's absolutely no question that for good sleep to happen, you've got to do something about. And, for good sleep to happen, we know your brain must slow down. So we have to address this. So if you haven't already seen my Downward Spiral of Insomnia video, I recommend that before continuing with this video, because the rest of this video is going to really build on that content. And in looking at the Downward Spiral of Insomnia, I basically, in that video, ask you a bunch of questions designed to give you a look into how you unconsciously view sleep. So I asked you 5 to 10 really specific questions that I've designed to help get to how you view sleep and help you really analyze that. And it will give you a key window insight into how it operates on a subconscious level. Okay, so now we're going to get into how to start making sleep less important on a subconscious level. So this is going to be the beginning of a new line of videos or new YouTube playlist called Importance Reduction Techniques. And in the title, I'll always have IR techniques to distinguish those type of videos. And before we can get into importance reduction techniques, we have to learn how to reduce importance on an unconscious level. So right now, all we've explored is the conscious level. And so what that sounds like is saying things to yourself like, oh, don't worry about sleep, or it's just one night, relax. It's just 20%, right? And that's just not going to have any effect and real change on your subconscious mind. And to affect your subconscious mind, you're going to have to make permanent changes to belief systems around sleep. The reason why is simple. Your beliefs are the deeper source of all those conscious thoughts that you have. So if you pretend like you tried to think of one of those phrases we just said, like, it's just one night, like it's not going to have that big of an effect on my sleep. Well, if you deeply believe that it does have a huge medical effect on you and that you're literally dying, how much is that phrase going to stick? Or take a phrase like, oh, just don't worry about sleep. Just don't worry about it. And then you deeply believe that you can't have a good day tomorrow if you don't sleep. How are you going to respond to a phrase like that? I mean, just try saying something like that to yourself and just kind of see what your internal dialogue sort of spits back out, right? So it's probably going to be something like, yeah, right. Or, obviously I'm going to worry no matter what I do. I always worry, right? So the reason that those thoughts are going to come up is they're coming from a source. There is a belief that says I cannot have a good day tomorrow without sleep. And so that belief is going to drive all of your thoughts, which is going to include thoughts which thoughts you sort of accept and which thoughts you reject. So it's not just the source of thoughts, it's actually the source of which thoughts you're going to accept and which thoughts you're going to reject. So to begin the IR techniques here. We have to start by discovering how it's possible to modify your beliefs, because that's your only access to your unconscious mind. So to be clear, all sleep solutions don't work as well as they should because of deeper level beliefs and behaviors that prevent sleep. The question is, how do you change them? So there's a book called it's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, not The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, just Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And that sums it up pretty well with this phrase they have in there. So to kind of quote from that book, they say, imagine a tree. Let's suppose this tree represents your sleep. Okay, they didn't say represent your sleep. I'm filling that part in. They said represent your success. So sort of paraphrasing, but more or less the exact quote from them. So on this tree, there are fruits that never seem to grow ripe and delicious. The fruits represents the results you're getting with sleep, your exhaustion. So we look at the fruits and we don't like them. They don't taste good. There aren't enough of them. They grow too slowly and they're too small. So, they're just not what we're looking for. So what do we tend to do? Most of us put even more attention and focus on our fruits, on our results. But what is it that actually creates those particular fruits? It's the seeds and roots that create those fruits. It's what's under the ground that creates what's above the ground. It's what's invisible that creates what's visible. So what does that mean? It means that if you want to change the fruits, you first have to change the roots. If you want to change the visible, you first have to change the invisible. So with your sleep, what you cannot see is far more powerful than anything you can see. The way it works in nature is that if your unconsciousness is at unrest, your consciousness will not be able to rest. So to change the roots, you have to change the parts of your unconscious mind that see sleep as important, because that's what's making that speedy brainwave activity all night long. So in my other playlist on the self-therapeutic method, we look at how to create an environment that naturally creates deep sleep, similar to the way a greenhouse would create a certain type of plant. So if you wanted to grow, I use an analogy of growing a jungle plant in a greenhouse designed for an arid desert. It doesn't really matter what you do. A jungle plant's just never going to grow in a greenhouse meant to, have the conditions of an arid desert. And even if you could find the perfect plant, it wouldn't really be the point, right? So we look at kind of how to create that environment, but in that playlist, I'm going to refer to this playlist a lot. And the reason for that is, you really just can't create the right type of atmosphere for sleep to happen if you don't get to the subconscious beliefs that are, running in the background and are really responsible for your current atmosphere with sleep. So this playlist, this concept is, in my opinion, if you have any mental type of issues with sleep at all, this is something that is an absolute must. And it's probably the biggest thing that's missing from the insomnia training community. They talk a lot about these kind of ideas in a lot of books, but I haven't seen a whole lot of, with some exceptions, I haven't seen much that really hits on this. And so this is what probably the biggest thing I'm trying to bring to the table here. And so to get the picture of, those roots to change, we have to look at a process, or the way I'm going to do is looking at a process that a lot of respected teachers use called the process of manifestation. So it goes like this. Your programming or your beliefs leads to your thoughts or behaviors, and that's going to lead to feelings. Feelings are going to lead to actions, and then actions are going to create your results. So applied to sleep, it'll work the same way. Beliefs that sleep is important will lead to behaviors like worrying about problems. Worrying about problems leads to feeling things like anxiety and depression and those type of things, right? Now, feeling anxious or depressed is going to lead to actions like trying harder, struggling to get comfortable, trying to force techniques to work, or like wonder if that pill you took is working. And actions like struggling lead to fragmented sleep. So beliefs that sleep is important leads to worrying about your problems, leads to feelings that speed up the brain, leads to speedy brainwave actions like trying harder, struggling, and forcing, and that creates fragmented sleep. And even after you fall asleep, your mind continues to struggle. The beliefs, behaviors, feelings, actions, and results carry on. So while that sounds hopeless, it's actually a good thing. It means that your mind never stops working for you. So we just have to learn how to make it work for you in a way that's actually helpful. So to stop the downward spiral of insomnia, we'd have to change those routes to look something like this. So what we would do is we'd make a model where we'd install some beliefs or change your current beliefs so that your main beliefs are around sleep isn't important, right? Or sleep is less important. So sleep is less important would lead to thoughts that are calming and relaxing. Thoughts that are calming and relaxing would lead to feelings of relief and comfort. Feelings of comfort are obviously going to lead to slow brainwave actions like relaxing, resting, letting go, and not caring. And relaxing, resting, letting go, not caring, that leads to solid, refreshing sleep. So that's really an introduction to what we're going to do. We're going to start doing things like looking at the 20% rule and going through a whole myriad of different beliefs and ways of approaching your own belief systems to really start kind of challenging yourself, asking a lot of questions you've never asked before, looking at things in a different way to get key insights that are going to help modify your beliefs, that are going to then improve your sleep and make sleep just naturally a lot better and a lot easier to use other sleep remedies and things of that nature without messing them up by making this critical mistake. So we're going to leave it there for this video, and in the next video we're going to start looking at how to really start getting there and really start actually making some changes. And in the next video, you're going to get some powerful insights into how you can really start to examine and reframe your beliefs so that your whole world kind of flips on its head. And if you really want to make the next video a game changer, please do this really simple exercise between this video and that next video. And that exercise is simply identify one belief. Just one. You could probably do in like 10 seconds after this video. Identify one belief that you have about sleep that makes it very important for you. So that can be anything that's near and dear to your heart. That could be like sleep is essential to my health. That could be I won't experience quality time with my friends or family or my loved ones if I don't sleep. It could be I struggle with my work when I'm tired. Anything like that. Anything that you just know to be true, right? So just identify something and then just look at how it plays out on an unconscious level. So when I say plays out, what kind of other thoughts come up from that belief, right? What other thoughts are around it? You might actually stop and look here for a minute and just look at, when I say that, what else comes up for me? Or last time I had that thought, what else was I concerned with? What other feelings and thoughts were coming up for me? Look at the last time it came up. It was probably today, right? So just have a look at that. And when you're feeling that way, look at what actions that you take that make sleep more important. So doing this is really going to help you witness how your unconscious mind actually works, how that belief really drives everything that you do, how it runs you, and it'll set you up to have a powerful breakthrough with this belief in the next video. So take some time and do that, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.